Welcome into Week 7 Boom Bust Fantasy Football, brought to you by the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I'm joined by Kyle and, of course, the professor coming here and drop some knowledge for Week 7, help you win your matchups. So this has been a crazy fantasy season so far, but it's seeming like some of those studs are kind of starting to come alive a little bit. Unfortunately, most of them can't even stay healthy. So it's been a wild season so far.
I'm not sure which studs you're referring to that are coming around a little bit.
I mean, Garrett Wilson was, but then, there's that. Mark Andrews was, and, we'll see. I mean, I'm just saying some of these guys are starting to perform a little bit, but I don't know how long they'll keep it up.
They must have got some hymns.
Yeah, there you go. Some of that blue,
one,
right?
Yeah.
That one stud, the professor, he's been producing all season.
Except for last week.
Never heard of her. Anyways, so all right, well, Professor, let's see if you can step up to the plate and help our viewers win Week 7. Give us your first player you want to talk about.
Yeah, the first guy I really like this week. If I've got one quarterback league, I'm thinking very, very heavily about starting him, depending on who my other options are. DFS for sure, and that's Mr. Matthew Stafford. A lot of that has to do with the fact of them coming off their 1 week bye, getting healthy, getting right, possibly getting back Cooper Kupp this week. And the other flip side, on the other side of that, the flip side is they're going up against my beloved Las Vegas Raiders defense, which has been absolutely atrocious this year. So I like Stafford in the matchup. Max Crosby has not been practicing. He's got the injured ankle. So, if Crosby's out, I just think we've got a great situation for Stafford to produce some fantasy numbers this weekend.
I'm just proud of you even owning publicly the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, that anyone is not wearing a paper bag over their head when they admit that right now is quite impressive. But on top of that, I agree that it is a great matchup. Quarterback in fantasy yet this season, but he hasn't had his wide receivers yet either, and his matchups have been much tougher than this. I agree with coming off the bye week. I think it's kind of a prime situation with getting Cooper Kupp back that this could be it, and I like your pick for him in DFS for sure. All right, Kyle. Yeah, let's see if you can keep it up here, Professor. Don't get cocky yet. All right, Kyle, let's jump over to you. Who's your first player?
So my first player is actually going to be a bust, and that's Mr. Brock Purdy against the Kansas City Chiefs. Aside from the Jets, Week 1, this is the toughest matchup he's going to face all year if you look at his schedule. And I just don't see it going well. Kansas City's playing very, very good defense. Brock Purdy's been pretty inconsistent, even in easier matchups. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in him this weekend. And, and to kind of go along with that, right now you don't even know, aside from maybe Kittle, like which pass catcher do I play? If Debo or Ayuk, who's going to have the better week back and forth? Kittle's been the only consistent player there. So as far as that goes, I don't think at this point you can afford to bench Kittle, but I am benching Brock Purdy this week.
I agree. I don't know who's going to be the pass catcher there for week in, week out. You don't know if it's going to be Debo or Ayuk. I think Kittle will kind of continue to get his as he stays healthy. But Purdy, yeah, it's been a roller coaster, right? He's only had 2 what I would consider decent games against the Rams and then Seattle there. So I don't know that I trust him against that Kansas City defense. On the upside, they will probably have to throw the ball quite a bit. Just to make it to keep in that game, I think. So I don't know. It's going to be a fun game to watch, but I don't know that I'm trusting Brock Purdy there. And you probably do have some better options, like, I don't know, Matt Stafford. Am I right, Professor? Yeah. Yep. All right. Exactly. All right, Kyle, let's keep it going. Give me another one.
All right, I'm going to hit you with a boom this time, and I'm liking Mr. Lad McConkey at Arizona. Arizona is one of the better, matchups for receivers in the league right now. McConkey is leading that team in targets most weeks. Like he's getting better and better. That rapport is building with Herbert in that offense. They're starting to kind of find a groove. But like you say, Arizona, and they're going to have to throw the ball some, at least. I know they like to run the ball, but they're going to have to put points up to keep up with Arizona. And so I like Lad McConkey this week to be kind of a PPR monster.
It's a bit out there, but that's what we're trying to do, is not give you necessarily those players that are obvious booms, right? So right now you're dealing with someone to fill in for bye weeks or mostly injuries at this point, or what you weren't planning on, you're trying to fill in. Lad McConkey, probably not really available in too many leagues. He's available, or he's rostered in 75% of leagues right now in sleeper. So others are obviously liking him too. So if he's available in your league, I'd probably go pick him up too. It'll be interesting to see how he's moving forward on that run first offense, but they have to throw the ball at some point, right? So,
he's been getting like 6-7 targets a game. So he had one game under 6 targets, and it was 4 against the Panthers when they just didn't need to throw. So
he's doubling targets of the guys like Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnson. So he's obviously getting the most targets. So he is probably your best bet in that offense. That they're an NFL team, they have to throw the ball sometime, right?
Exactly.
So
even a run first team is going to throw probably 30 balls,
Yeah.
Unless you're the Ravens, then you'll throw like 18.
18.
But
jerks. They don't care about fantasy at all. All right, Professor, hit us with your next one.
I'll give you my first bust of the week, and that's a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mr. Najee Harris. Now, you may be a Najee Harris owner. Super excited about getting this guy into your starting lineup this week after the week he put up last week against my atrocious Raider defense. Don't make that mistake, because this week they're not playing the Raiders again. This week, unfortunately, for Mr. Najee Harris and Najee Harris owners, they're playing the New York Jet defense, which has only led up 2 rushing touchdowns so far on the season. So Najee Harris is a guy that will not be in any of my starting lineups or DFS lineups. Not with this matchup against the Jet defense.
No, I couldn't agree more. Najee has struggled in some games against very simple matchups, much less this very stingy Jets defense. So not trusting him there. Am I correct in thinking that Warren is getting more healthy and starting to eat into his reps a little bit? So that worries me. And we've seen that kind of coming too. The more healthy Warren gets, the more of a hit to Najee's weekly value that becomes. So, if they get behind here, heck, they may even have to start throwing the ball a little bit, and that's more Warren's game too. So I don't know. I do fear for Najee in this game, and honestly kind of moving forward after that. So good call there. And I know Kyle's happy to see that, because he is the president of the Najee Harris Haters fan club. So
facts. Yep,
facts. And you can join that fan club at fantasysportsadvice.network. Stick around to the end. We'll give you an ad for that. All right, Tony, give me one more here.
I'm going to give you another running back. And This is a guy who used to play for my beloved Raiders, now plays for the Green Bay Packers, and that's Mr. Josh Jacobs. Tough matchup this week going up against the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans have been really a very favorable matchup for opposing quarterbacks and receivers, but they've been brutal for running backs. So I think the game script this week is going to limit Josh Jacobs' upside, and for me, I've got him down as a bust.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, and Houston's one of those teams you kind of have to throw to keep up with, right? Because they put points on the board. Jacobs has actually been pretty underwhelming this year, and I think what we expected from him, but that's also because that Green Bay passing attack is really good, So I would agree with you here. I don't think Jacobs is utilized enough in this game to make him worthwhile this week. So, all right, I'll give you that one. That's also a good call. On to the next one, Kyle.
All right, I'm going to give you one that you're maybe expecting, but it's not for the reason you're expecting. And that's Garrett Wilson to bust. And it's not just because Devontae Adams was just traded there. I actually don't think that hurts him as much as some people might think. But for me, this week, it's all about that matchup with Pittsburgh. That is a super tough defense. It's playing really well. And, losing some targets to Devontae on top of that, who they've already, verified is going to play. That's tough. Like, obviously, at this point, you're not going to bench Garrett Wilson, but I would definitely temper my expectations. Not a DFS play this week.
You and I have had that conversation about Wilson. I agree that I'm not panicking on Wilson with Devontae Adams coming into town there. He gets a little bit of a ding, but maybe a quality over quantity type of situation there. We see multiple wide receivers thrive on the same team. So it is possible. You mentioned the tough matchup. He's done well against some tough, good defenses so far, but none of those defenses also had the same kind of pass rush that the Steelers have, and that worries me with
they don't all have
Aaron Rodgers.
Watt in their face.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that kind of mobility, and that offensive line I have not been impressed with. So I'm a little bit worried about some of that. And that makes me down on Garrett Wilson this week, and makes me worried also if Devontae Adams does play this week one, that maybe he gets too excited, tries to force feeds him just a little much, just excited to have his old pal back, and so that does worry me. So
yeah, it's funny you mentioned the offensive line. One of the things I saw a lot after the trade, like you go on Instagram, you see, breaking news, so-and-so traded. A lot of Jets fans on there going, oh, could he also play O-line?
Right. Does he block good? Yeah, need that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle, hit me with some good news here.
All right, so my last boom is actually an immediate, I think, beneficiary from the other big trade from yesterday, the Amari Cooper to the Bills, and that is Mr. David Njoku. I think he's essentially the wide receiver one in that offense now. I think he starts, picking up more targets. I know Deshaun Watson is horrible, but, Njoku's a big guy. Get it close to him, and he can make some plays. But, who else are they going to throw to? Jerry? Even Steve Smith, Jerry Jeudy, even Steve Smith says he's, a tier 3 receiver. Elijah Moore has been severely, underwhelming since he came in the league. So it's like they're going to have to throw to somebody, and I think it's David Njoku, and I think he just freaking skyrockets from here the rest of the season.
Now, by skyrocket, do you mean just reaches double-digit points? I mean, at this point, that's a huge boost at your tight end position, since so many tight ends are failing to get double-digit points. But
yeah, I think he finishes top 5 now. I think this boosts him enough to finish top 5, even with the missed games from the injury.
Yeah, I think he does benefit from this quite a bit, and we have seen Deshaun Watson and Njoku connect quite a bit. It used to be actually his favorite target, I would argue. And so Njoku has had some good times there with Deshaun Watson, and not in the kind of way that Deshaun probably prefers. But Deshaun Watson is playing so horribly. And so either way, even if they have to bring in Jameis Winston or something, I mean, I think Njoku is still the best target they have left there. So I agree that while it may not be a huge boom, he's going to improve upon what has been. So he will no longer be burdened by what has been. So, all right, Tony, let's finish on some positive vibes here. Bring us home with it.
My second boom of the week is Mr. Tank Bigsby. I gave you 2 downers at the running back position. Let me give you a winner at the running back position, and that's Mr. Tank Bigsby. A couple of reasons why I like him this week in particular. Number one, it looks like ETN is going to miss this week's game with that hamstring injury, and if he does play,
an injury? There's an injury? How weird.
His upside might be a little bit capped. I also think just with the game script, we could see Jacksonville get out to a nice little lead here, and then watch Tank Bigsby get, what could amount to a massive workload. So this is a guy for me that I think is setting up to be a nice boom. He is a guy that I am looking to get into my starting lineup, whether it's redraft or DFS.
Tank's been pretty good this season, especially compared to Etienne, right? So, now if Etienne's out, then Tank gets his shot to just kind of take over that backfield for the week with, like you said, a great matchup. So I really can disagree with nothing. That is absolute money this week. And so
cherry on top.
Yeah, so I'll put him in my lineup, and he'll be out after 2 plays or something and get me negative points like Etienne did last week. Whatever, it is what it is.
Or like Olave did,
Yeah, hope not, but that's the kind of season we have been having. So unless, barring any sort of injury, I'm with you there, Professor. Great call on Tank Bigsby. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it this week for Boom Bust Fantasy Football. Join us over on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network and come hang out with us and get your questions answered. All right, we'll see you next week. Good luck.
Good luck, everybody. Except Professor.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.